The authority was started by an act of parliament. It says 2020 because that's when we officially started work, but the um, call on date is actually December 1st, 2019, and it is the agency directly responsible for reconstruction after a storm. It is a corporate body. What does that mean? It means that it is not a ministry department. That means that even though we are under the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness Management and the like, we have a certain autonomy. It means that we are able to have our own funds. The authority has a separate bank account. The money for the authority does not go through the consolidated fund. It can sue. So if you don't do the work that the authority contracts you to do, it can sue you. At the same time, it can be sued. It is run by a board of directors, and it is operated and managed day to day by a managing director. We don't have an executive chairman, even though sometimes I wonder. But I am of the school, anything with two heads is always a monster. So, the authority exists only within a declared disaster zone. So it has broad powers within the disaster zone. And one of the functions is to prepare the reconstruction plan and see that that plan is properly implemented. It monitors and it regulates all of the activities within the disaster zone. It arranges the distribution of food, and it oversees the restoration efforts and the restoration committee. And it has the power to construct and equip any facility within a declared disaster zone. Now notice, after Hurricane Dorian, we had a flooding incident in Nassau. And you know, people call me all the time, oh, my house was flooded in Nassau Village. Can you help me? And the answer is no, I cannot help you. You need to call someone at NEMA, because Nassau, New Providence, was not declared a disaster zone. On the islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama, where you have a disaster zone declaration, those are the areas that the authority acts. And it coordinates the relationships between national and international NGOs. So we are the group of persons that deal directly with our international partners. And we consult with the minister on matters of policy. So the ministry creates the policy framework. So the ministry will say what the framework for the disaster zone declaration. The ministry will determine the policy for resilient housing. The authority is an implementing agency. We do not develop policy, but we see that whatever is reconstructed is aligned with the policy objectives of the government. So there's the pretty picture. That's how my mind works. Note that we only exist in a disaster zone, and this is very important, that we only exist in a disaster zone to take care of the needs of that particular zone. For each disaster zone, the mandate can last between 3 to 5 years by statute. And we are project driven. So all on our docket now is a bunch of projects. So the authority exists to do project work. And Ordinarily, in any given year, if you listen to the mandate of a government, and this is where the authority picks up the slack. If you listen to the mandate of the government, each government agency lists a series of projects that the agency is working on. Roads, BPL may have something, the college may have something. When you have a disaster, the impact of that disaster usually throws all of the project objectives that you had planned for that year out of whack. What the authority has allowed the government to do is it allows, particularly in the disaster zone, that set of projects to be moved outside of the agencies, given to a specific group of persons, so that the Ministry of Works can continue working with their policy objectives, and the authority actually does the work of the Ministry of Works related to disaster functions. These are statutory powers. We can accept money, gifts, act as trustees. We can invest funds. So the authority is meant to build a legacy and a reconstruction legacy. A lot of the agencies, and those of you that are familiar with the government's budget cycle, you know they say if you don't use it, you lose it. It doesn't work that way in the authority. Once we have the funds, we can keep them as legacy for a project that exceeds the ordinary budget cycle. We have the power to second individuals from any agency in order to do our work. And, you know, I said that in a group of directors and permanent secretaries, and there was like a deafening silence. And then they started writing their list and telling me who now you know you can't take that person. And we have the power to appoint and hire employees on our own terms. And what that means is we have a separate human resource, and our employees don't go through the Public Service Commission. We can take legal action if required in order to get the work done. And in consultation with ministries, you can see we got some power at the bottom there. We can remove and destroy any building. We can order the removal or destruction of any animal. We can order the cut on or cut off of any utility. We can construct or cause to be constructed any building or facility necessary for reconstruction. So you see, the authority pretty much has very, very broad powers only within the disaster zone. We can subject a place or a thing to a decontamination procedure. And like I said, we can direct any person or work to stop an operation. We can close the premises of any place. And I talked about the utilities. And of course, because we have the means to manage our own funds, we have a national trust fund. And our first national trust fund has actually been established in conjunction with the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. And this allows us to receive funds internationally, but it also gives us the benefit of having an independent international partner. And what we found is for a lot of persons and a lot of international donors, that gives them a certain level of comfort as well. And that's my second beautiful picture. So what are we working on? And let me tell you how reconstruction is taking place. That's it for the slides. As an authority, we have strategized the reconstruction of Hurricane Dorian around 7 sectors. And these sectors are the economy, education, the environment, health, housing, infrastructure, and system strengthening. Currently, we have active projects in all of those areas. With the economy, we are partnering with the Small Business Development Center, the Bahamas Entrepreneurial Fund, and the Chambers of Commerce to have pop-ups and provide assistance to small and medium-sized businesses on both the islands of Grand Bahama and Abaco. We're going to do a 6-month update on Sunday. It's going to be a public address, and we are going to publish the highlights of our national plan that will cover a lot of this information. In education, we are starting schools on the island of Abaco. We are presently working on the Central Abaco Primary School. There's plans to build a new school in the east end of Grand Bahama. And we're doing school repairs in Cooperstown. And we are planning to build new schools in Green Turtle Key. And we are looking at a new high school in Central Abaco. Actually, we're kind of debating whether repairs to the existing is sufficient or a new high school is warranted. In terms of the environment, cleanup continues, and this has been a big newsworthy event. A lot of people paying attention to the cleanup. We had over 2 million cubic yards of debris. We had over 2 million cubic yards of debris to clean up. 70% of that was in Abaco. It was highly concentrated in Abaco. As we speak, we are at the point now where we are trying to get rights of entry to clear property. A few weeks ago, there was a news reporter on social media. You know, from time to time, people send me these things, right? So he's on social media, and he's driving through every little road in Abaco, all through the side corners and everything. And he's saying, you see this? Nothing has been done. For the last 4 or 5 months, nothing. It's a shame. Somebody sends this to me and says, what do you think? I said, dude, he's driving through the roads. The roads are clear. His was the half-empty version. So, and the cleanup continues. We're handling, along with the cleanup of the roads, we have to address some real environmental issues in terms of the permanent solutions for debris in Abaco in particular. Health, there's a need for a new hospital here on the island of Grand Bahama. And we are looking to address that aggressively. And we had some minor repairs to some of the clinics. Actually, the clinics fared reasonably well. Housing. We have as of right now, you would have heard over the last 2 weeks, we started 3 weeks, the small homes program. As I stand here today, close to 1,800 persons have have registered for that program. We've given out vouchers, and that's beginning to continue. Of course, we've gotten the keys for the domes. 51, 32 have been completed, another 19 are under construction. In terms of infrastructure, there are roads and bridges there are some roads on the east end. There's a bridge in Abaco that needs to be completed. And by and large, there are some seawalls that were slated to be constructed that the ministry didn't get to, but they are now falling within our portfolio. And the last one is actually system strengthening. And system strengthening really is a mindset. Because what it means is that everybody has to think differently. I coined the phrase that this is our recovery. And when I say our recovery, this is a recovery that requires a national commitment to a new way of thought. And that commitment transcends location, it transcends political party, it transcends every divisive thing, because we are confronted with a new reality. And that new reality means that, yes, we must think different. We must think different about preparation. We must think different about response. And when we say think different about response, a response to a hurricane now is everybody's response. It's not a NEMA response. It's not a ministry response. It's not an authority's response. It's everybody's response. That is the only way that we're able to recover and reconstruct better. When we realize that the shift in thinking, the change in paradigm belongs to every single one of us that calls this beautiful place home. That's my 3 minutes. Thank you.